What's up, guys? Casey and George back with the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel on another Tuesday, just like we always are at 5 Eastern, 4 Central Time for old George out there in Texas. But we always got to thank those sponsors that keep this show going. TSR Racing Products, Chance Performance Parts, BRG 3D Printed Parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas, and Driven Racing Oil, where you can use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off. But those of you that watch the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel every single week might notice there's a new logo up there in the, what is it, this corner, George? I can't really decide over here. Is it that? Is that the one I'm pointing at?
I don't know. I can't do it.
Proform Parts, guys. We're excited we might as well do it right now for immediate release. George likes to do that type of stuff anyway. Immediate release. He likes those taglines. But we partnered with Proform for the 2023 racing season, man. They got thousands and thousands of SKUs. If you guys haven't ever heard of Proform, they sell alternators, carburetors, cooling systems, radiators, fans, water pumps, differential covers. They sell distributors and accessories for distributors. They sell dress-up parts for your engine. They sell gaskets. They sell fasteners. They sell scales, starters, if I haven't said that already. The cool part about Proform, man, I got a Proform alternator, and I actually have a Proform water pump that I've been using on the Nova, actually, for this entire year since I put it back together. And I'm extremely happy with it. I'm extremely happy with the price. It runs quiet. It doesn't sound like a fuel pump running. You all know what that sounds like, super loud as soon as you turn it on. But yeah, man, I've been using these parts, like I said, for this entire year before we ever got a hold of them. And luckily, they saw the value in GBR and wanted to jump on board with us. So, George, you got anything to say further on that?
Just a big old welcome to GBR, fam. Show them some love as you get ready to go through. You need a couple of spare parts. You need a couple of new parts. You need whatever you need. Give a look at Proform, man. They've got a pretty good list, like Casey's mentioned, of products and services that they can provide for you. So definitely very happy to announce that today, man. But I know one thing. It's been a heck of a day from having SFG to watch, with them having the Bradenton 5-day going on, Christmas Bash. You know, that's kind of a race that I'd love to venture myself down to. It just gets cold or tornadic here in Texas. Speaking of, I wake up this morning to a tornado warning. It's only December 13th. Who cares? You know, we can spin up a tornado at any time we want to, right? So I'm gonna stop jiving for a little bit there and get into the meat of what we got going on, man. And I think today is going to be very, very interesting, with the whole emergence of this whole invitation only 100 grand race that Spring Fling Bracket Races are putting on. And Casey and I are going to take a little time here on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel and do what I would like to call, and probably everybody else out there would like to call, a mock draft. I'm not going to explain the rules of this race. I'm just going to air the video that was brought to us directly from Spring Fling. And so hang on a minute and let's take a ride over on Spring Fling Lane and see what we can come up with. Bear with me. You tell me how you feel about that out there in the world of bracket racing. Facebook, YouTube. Man, this is going to be one heck of a series. Casey, go ahead and start us up, man. What you feel about what's going on over at the Spring Fling?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like we've always talked on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. It seems like, you know, the Spring Fling series has been, since their inception, has been trendsetters in the bracket racing community as far as big money bracket racing goes, and as far as just mega racing goes in general. They always have the newest ideas, and this is their newest idea, which they're calling it the All-Star Shootout. $100,000 to win. The first 12 drivers, there's going to be 48 drivers total. I guess I should say that first. But they're going to pick the first 12 drivers as the Spring Fling staff sees fit as far as the best drivers in the country. I think a lot of people are getting confused with the fact that, like, everybody wants to say, oh, this is going to prove the greatest all time. I don't think that's the goal. The goal is to see who the best is in the country right now, just like the all-star team in the NBA and stuff like that. That's what they're doing. Who's the best right now? And that's kind of what we're going to get into today. But I'll give you a little idea on, I watched the full video that Peter did, I believe this time last week, and he was kind of explaining how this was going to work. And I followed up with Peter on a couple of things, just to try to get the details ironed out before we put it all out there to the entire world. And he had to then go in and be like, hey, Casey, why are you putting words in my mouth on all this stuff? So I think I got it lined out, Pete. So if I don't, then just let me know. But the first 12 drivers are going to be announced on January 3rd. And this is, again, picked by the Spring Fling staff. The next 12 drivers, so this will then make it 24, those are going to be voted on amongst the bracket racing community. So people who follow GBR, people who follow the Spring Fling, everybody who races, you're all going to be able to vote on who you think the next 12 should be. Now, this is the part that's cool, George, in my opinion. This is the part that's cool. Each one of those guys gets to pick a teammate. But the part that's cool about this whole deal, I mean, that part is cool, but the coolest part about this whole deal is Peter has said, if you're a dragster driver and you want to race your dragster, you have to pick a door car driver. So we're going to have 24 door car racers, elite door car racers, 24 elite dragster racers. The way they're going to end up doing it, that'll obviously total up to 48. They are then going to go into this race and race the door cars and the dragsters separately until they're 6. And I think that after they're 6, then they go on a ladder or something like that. I think they're going to do something as like a chip draw to see who runs who. They're going to have that team that they picked. They're going to have a point system for them. So whoever's team wins the most rounds is ultimately going to win. What I think is going to happen is I think there's going to be a couple teams that might have the same points. And they haven't said anything about this. I don't know if, I'm sure Peter's thought about this since the announcement, but I want to see the runoff between those teams. That's what's going to be just as cool as the actual race. And it's going to be $100,000 winner take all, $2,000 entry fee, invite only for this whole race. And then whoever's team goes the furthest, I think, gets $5,000. But I want to see, what's your opinion on that, man? Because I literally just thought of that as I was kind of reading the rules over here on my side screen. How should they do the runoff for the team challenge? Because ultimately there's going to be at least one or two teams, I guess, that'll tie.
Well, bring them to the lanes, last man standing, both to all teams. Bring both cars. It's sudden death. If you take out the other two races in the first round, then so be it. But you can't race yourself, so you have to split them up. I mean, we're going to have an even number the way I see it, either way you look at it. Why is that? Because there's two racers on each team, from what I hear. So, yeah, man, line them up. Let's go. Whoever takes down whoever. Last man standing, your team won the cup. Don't matter if one person took the team to the chip or not. You know what I mean?
And this is going to be a race that I guess I should also mention. It's going to be contested on Wednesday, September 6th at the Spring Fling in Columbus, Ohio. So there's plenty of time for everybody to argue about what's going on and who should be in it and who shouldn't be in it and where they should be on the list, things like that. Another thing I wanted to get into was that whenever we get into these 24, and we're going to give our idea of who we should think and what we think should be on this list. But how do you think that the 24 drivers should they be listed, say, 1 to 24, best to worst? How should they pick their teammates? Because someone has to pick first, right?
Yeah, that's a fact. And the way I see it happening here, I do believe there's going to be 12 that's picked by the Spring Fling team as the elite of the elite. Underlining it that way, just saying that's how it's going to be selected. From there, of that 12, there's got to be a selection based on 1 through 12. Unless they're going to enter some type of random situation to where names are entered in and picks are drawn out that way. I see that being beneficial to the race, or I can see it, hey, the fans have voted top 12. This number one racer of all right now in the country is this person. He gets first pick just right off the bat, you know. And honestly, 12 of them's picked by Spring Fling. 12 more drivers is picked by us, the innocent bystanders that are going to have a lot of fun sitting in the Motor Mania bleachers or wherever we're going to be at, or even at the race. Who knows, right? But the other 12 are going to be picked by us, but there's still another 12 coming, and that is picked by the top 12 racers. So that means you can't just pick Nick Hastings because he's already going to be in there in somewhere. You can't just pick just anybody who you think's the greatest, the best of the best pound for pound. You're going to have to pick out of a list of 12, which I can give 12 more over my 20, however many I've picked already anyway. 30, however many I got on this list. I can pick 12 more anyway that I'm sure will get picked to go to this. But you see where we're going with this. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a little bit of fan participation, which I like even more, followed up by those 12 drivers who are the top 12 get to pick their partner. I like it. I actually love it. This is one of those things that I feel like could have been in the mad scientist Peter Biondo's head this whole time. Let's be honest. Just got to figure out a way to do it.
Right. And what I think the best idea, be it intentional or unintentional, the coolest thing about this whole deal is a lot of the people that you would think would try to stack their team and be on, team 1, team 2, whatever you want to call it. Those guys are going to be in the top 24 anyway. Right. So they're going to then have to pick a teammate. So, for example, and we'll get into this whenever we get in our list, but there's a lot of people that, are in your head that obviously are going to be on people's lists. It might be in a different order, but it's going to be on those people's lists. Well, they can't be on the same team.
Right.
That's what's going to be very cool about this whole thing is that, and because they have to pick somebody that is going to be their door car racer or their dragster racer, depending on whichever one they drive, that means that certain people won't stack up with each other anyway, because there's a lot of people you see winning in dragsters that don't win very often in door cars because you can't drive them quite the same as you can a dragster for various reasons. Right. But that, like I said, be that intentional or unintentional, that is going to be a very cool scenario to see who ends up on whose team, because there might be somebody that you don't even realize is really out there, or somebody that you've forgotten about that now ends up on a team because, oh, wait, they are a good door car driver, something like that, and it's going to be primarily, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of door car drivers that you're going to see show up, and you're going to be like, man, where'd this guy come from?
Right. And that's what I like, though. It's going to, at the same time where you have your 12 that are what I would call 12 captains, if that's the way you want to put it. You got the 12 captains, then you have the 12 people's champs, then you have 12 picks by the captains. So keeping it in that order, this is going to get interesting really, really quickly. And some that we may not have all the way heard of, all of us. I mean, Casey and I have a pretty good long list of drivers that we can think of kind of on a whim. I know I'm not speaking for myself here. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys do as well. But you can see how quickly you might see racers that you don't always see at these races show up as a selection into this race. So definitely this is getting ready to be interesting, as I already see Fixing Used Race Cars throw out the name Ricky Jones. Alan Boynkin says, what's up, GBR? Over here on the Facebook side, we got Russell Dow, George in the house. I sure am. I'm in the house. Hey, what's up, Russell Dow? Scott Lewis, what's up, boys? Hey, man, Casey, let's get off into this list, man, because this could get pretty lengthy.
It could, man, and again, we might as well just say this. This isn't a list of the greatest of all time. This is a list based on the greatest racers as of right now, as just me and George see it. It wouldn't be the first time that people have told us that we were wrong.
All right.
If you think that there's somebody that needs to be on these lists, then go ahead and put it up. Lucky for you, we're not the ones voting it in,
That's
so
right.
don't
You
hate
get
on
your
us
vote.
anyway.
I see a post in here too that says if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. That's beautiful. I love it.
That's right.
But hey, everybody go vote. This ain't politics here. You know, this is bracket racing we talking about. All right, let's go bracket racing. So get out there and vote whenever that list comes out. I'm curious to see how many numbers, how many, and all of that. I see a bracket racer one throwing his hat on Race Kid getting selected. I see old racer throwing Scotty's name out there. You know what I mean? So throw your picks out there, guys. You're in here. Throw some names out there. You know me and Casey have a list. So Casey, let's get at it, man. What you got down there, old number one?
You want me to start with my number one, huh?
I do.
All right. My number one, as far as who I would think would be absolute first, top of the mind, and this is actually funny because, believe it or not, I totally forgot about him, which is kind of crazy to say that now he's my number one until I was talking to Dylan Champion the other day, and he's like, I just looked at your list because I always send him my list of stuff usually and said, this is my list. And he's like, how could you forget this guy? And I'm like, man, I have no idea. My number one is Kyle Coultrera.
Very
and
good.
more than anything, beyond the fact that Kyle Coultrera did what he did this year and has two dragsters, usually has them both deep. I want to say at one point Kyle had both of his cars in at like 7 cars at some major race that he ultimately ended up winning. It might have been actually the Spring Fling Bristol, if I'm remembering correctly. It might have been if he was racing Hastings in the final. I can't remember, but the funny thing is actually the last race that I went to this year, he was parked right across from me. And he not only won top in his dragster, or a dragster, I don't know if it was his or not, he also runnered up in foot brake, I believe, in a Nova. So Kyle Coultrera, in my opinion, was probably the winningest driver if you look at the number of rounds entered versus rounds won this year in 2022. I know Ryan Gleghorn's probably got a tally on that, so he could tell me if I'm wrong or not whenever he watches this a little while later. But Kyle Coultrera is my number one. Do you have him on your list?
I have him on my list at number 2.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, guys, Casey and I do not know each other's list while we're going through this. So this is on the fly right here. He said make a list, so I did it, and we didn't talk about it until now. So this could get real interesting. But I've got Coultrera number 2. My number 1 driver is, of course, the nasty Nick Hastings himself.
Really?
I don't have a way not to put him number 1, simply because he is, in my opinion, one of the most feared racers on the circuit right now as we speak. So definitely have to go with Nasty Nick up here as my number 1. As I see a lot of Biondos coming in here, I like Biondo as number 1, but I don't know if he can race in his own race.
He's not running his own race. He
Yep.
already announced that he's not running his own race, which is fine. I mean,
Right.
if he hadn't said that, then there's a very good possibility Peter Biondo would have been my number 1 on my list. He definitely would have been in the top 5. I can assure you of that. But I don't think Pete's going to run his own race. I think he's more along the lines of he's the promoter for this event and wants to have an all-star shootout for the all-stars of the bracket racing community, which is really cool.
I like it.
For him to just step back and try to put his all in it and put on a good show for everybody.
Oh, I like it. And you know Pete gives good interviews at the in the staging lanes, as we watched Troy Williams and Nick Hastings go through an interview right before they went down the track. So I can expect to see a little bit of that. Hey, Pete, man, if you need me to come out and do some interviews for you, just holler at me. I can make my way down there somehow, you know, get the old Going Bracket Racing t-shirt out and come on down and do some interviews, you know. But definitely this is going to be great. Casey, what did you have for number 2?
Number two for me is Gary Williams. That's, you know, and I think there's a lot of people that would say Gary should have been number 1. Gary is probably the winningest racer in the history of big money bracket racing, period. You know, as far as, again, rounds won, just big checks collected. Nick Hastings, who you just said is on my list as well. He is in the top 10. He's not where you put him, but Nick Hastings probably is one of the most winning drivers in the last 5 years total. If you put them all in a hat, I bet you he's easily, and people get this confused, man. People get this confused with like who's won more money. To be honest with you, I don't really care who's won more money. I care who's won more races, who's won more rounds, because the thing is we're just talking about money in the big check format. We all know that's been split up.
Absolutely.
If you consistently get to splits, which Nick Hastings does consistently get to splits, so does Gary Williams. Gary Williams' difference is that Gary Williams, it seems like he's either going to lose at about fourth or fifth round. If he gets past that, he's winning the entire race. And Nick does that too.
So you're saying once they get on a good roll, you got to get out of the way. You let them see too many win lights, and you're not doing yourself any favors if you're in the other lane versus either one of those two drivers. And I get it 100%. So, Casey, man, I think we can move on to number 3 as we keep pushing down here. Is it my turn or is it yours?
I guess it's your turn. Well, is it my turn? I don't know.
Yeah,
I went first. I guess it's your turn.
I think it's my turn here, and give me the rabbit. Give me Kevin Brannon coming in there strong at my number 3. The guy who always shows up, seemingly loads everybody up. I don't care if it's in a dragster. I don't care if it's in a Mazda. I don't care if it's in a street car. Chances are, a golf cart. I don't care. Chances are, if you have to run Kevin Brannon, it's going to be a dogfight that you will likely lose. Currently. Not me, though. I'm putting him on the trailer. I tell him to his face, he's going on the trailer. I don't care, right? But I'm saying, right? So I got Kevin Brannon number 3. Who you got?
That's another guy that's on my list, man. But my number 3 is Corey Galletti.
Woo!
And yeah, Corey Galletti. We're talking about consistency here. Corey Galletti is always, if he's at any race, he's always subject to either win the dragster shootout. It seems like anytime he wants a new dragster, he just decides I'm going to enter the shootout and take that one home with me. I don't know if maybe that's one of the days that Chris says, well, they got a dragster shootout here, Corey. I guess I'll just bring 3 cars to this race because we're going to have to haul a new one home. And his white car he's driving, man, Todd's Extreme Paint, I believe, painted that. They always look nice. But anytime, seemingly since Corey Galletti showed up, it's like he showed up at exactly the right time because he turned 16 right whenever this Mega Money stuff started.
Right. And
he's been in the winner's circle ever since.
Right. You're not going to like where I got old Corey Galletti, and I am a fan. Trust me, it's Team Texas as a whole. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I feel for you, Pete. This is good. Spring Fling crew. This is going to be hard. I hope you know it, all right? There's that many out there that could literally be in here. And you ain't going to like where I got old Galletti, and I'll tell you down the line. Moving into number 4.
Well, give me your number 3.
I got you my number 3. Yeah. That's Kevin Brannon.
All right. Yeah. So we are in line. See, this is hard, man, because we got a bunch going on here.
Back and forth. Go with number 4. Number 4, Gary Williams. Gary Williams is coming in at number 4 for me on this list. Like you said, he's very consistent. Don't take nothing away from that. As we're talking, Gary Williams is definitely amongst the top in all the country right now. But coming in at number 4, I think that's a good spot. Okay? And the only reason I think so is because there are just a few others that I've listed here that I feel like are a little bit more dangerous if they were to race each other. That's kind of how I made my list. Who would beat who if they raced each other? So
now, let me ask you this then about your personal list. So before I get into my number 4, why do you think Nick Hastings is number 1 versus Gary Williams being number 4?
I think Nick Hastings is the most feared racer in bracket racing right now. What I'm basically saying is, if you look over, not me, I don't care if you are Nick, I'm putting you on the trailer, okay? I'm just playing. But if you look over in the other lane and you see that old blue car sitting over there, you liable to shake out your boots unless you just. So I think from a fear factor standpoint, Nick Hastings makes makes people, just because of his name, do things that they don't readily do at a racetrack. Let's set up 001 and go 6 red because I'm about to smash the tree down. Or let's hold 8 and get down there and kill 6. You know what I mean? Because he always makes it look funny. The guy is just, hey man, I picked Nick Hastings there because I feel like he's the most feared racer in the country right now. That's what I think.
Those are good points. I mean, agree to disagree on the whole deal, just simply because of the fact that I think Gary Williams isn't scared of anybody, first of all.
Right.
And I also think that that would actually be a battle of the luckiest man, to be honest with you, because I know they're both going to hold a boatload and they're both going to do their own thing, and it's just going to be whoever does it better. And that's potentially 1 and 2 of the best that are going to do that. And so that would be a very interesting race, and we'll probably get to see that at this event. That's what's cool about this event. So
because they can't be on the same team, so we're going to see it eventually regardless.
Right. They won't be on the same team because they'll be in that top 10.
That's right.
I mean, those two are a given. That's why, like we're saying, yeah, we got these people in order, but this is more or less a list, and then we're gonna refine the list in a pretty cool way later.
Right.
That's not gonna depend on Casey and George's opinion. So you guys can make your own opinion there, and that'll be on you. But my number 4, quite possibly the best door car racer in the entire country, including Nick Hastings, as far as 2022 goes, Matt Daddis. You can't really tell me otherwise. Who do you think is going to be higher than Matt Daddis, dude? I mean, he won 50 rounds at Gateway in one weekend.
Right.
I mean, he seemingly shows up. He shows up with a new car. Like, obviously, he always has the Oldsmobile, and he'll show up with a new car, it seems like, every other year, and he'll win just as much in that car. I think when he did all the winning in St. Louis, it was in that Grand Am, wasn't it?
That's right.
Or was he nice and he split it amongst both of them?
I think he was in that Grand Am for the most of the whole weekend.
The thing you got to respect about Matt Daddis is, as much as he's been winning, he keeps going with the door cars. Guys won enough. He could probably get brand new dragsters. I want to say Daddis actually might have had a part in, I think American might have built Jeer dragsters for a while, and he actually might have been building them. But Daddis is a door car guy, and he sticks to his guns. And I think he's going to be probably one of the first door car drivers on this list.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. You're not gonna like where I got Daddis either. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So, coming in at number 5, well, that's my man Corey Galletti. I had him number 5. I really do. I'm kicking myself that I didn't have him up further, based on the points that you've made. So I'm not even gonna go down the trail. I'm just gonna say I concur with everything you said about Corey Galletti. And like you said, if you throw a dragster race as the winning prize, you might as well just not have a race and load it up on his trailer, because seemingly the kid likes his dragster. He gonna win that dragster. Okay, I don't know how many he's won now. I know at least 2, right? But I don't know how many. So
yeah, man,
you got it, man. You can take it from there. Sorry, Corey, he stole all the show whenever it come to your name. But I agree with everything you said about Corey Galletti.
Yeah, man. I mean, top 5 there's no shame in being in the top 5 of the greatest racers in the entire country. I mean, so he could be in our list. He could be as high as number 3, lowest number 5. I mean, there's a lot of people that race in this country, man. So if you're top 5, pretty good, no matter where you're at. But my number 5 is going to be Johnny Labuse, man. And he's a guy that he will for sure be in this race, regardless of where he gets picked. And the reason being is because Johnny Labuse is one of the best door car drivers in the country and one of the best dragster drivers in the country. Don't forget. And by the way, Stevie Dustin's in here right now, and he was actually bringing up. Well, he made me bring up my point by looking at his name. Johnny Labuse, I believe, was the last one in that could have ruined it for Stevie,
right,
for the championship of VMP that we talked so much about.
Here's my hard part about Labuse, and maybe it's just based on where races were. I didn't see him run very much this year. And so that's kind of my thought process behind why I don't have Labuse in my top 12. Right? So, good call out, however. And you're not going to like where I got Labuse at all. So this is why this race is going to be extremely good, and this is going to be a very hard. He was chasing NHRA. I see you, Stevie Dustin. That's why I didn't see LaBoost that often. He was chasing NHRA.
Yep.
So, man, but I know that name very well. Who
Man,
doesn't, right?
He's capable of winning anything in any car in any class. That's the thing, man, is that Johnny LaBoost, no matter what you enter him in, your money's always well spent entering
Absolutely.
Johnny in any race.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll tell you what, guys, we got more coming here in about the next 2 minutes. We're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. Make sure to hit that like and follow button. Let's get as many people on this stream as possible. Hang in there.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
Here's the skinny on the ProForm Slim Fit radiator systems. They are the industry's first and only 4-inch thick radiator system. That's the radiator plus the shroud plus the fan combined. A complete unit that's up to 40% thinner than others on the market. Fully assembled for performance out of the box. Eliminate the stress and frustration that comes as precious weekend hours are lost trying to upgrade your cooling system with major space constraints. The Slim Fit system utilizes 2 patented pieces of technology, allowing for a seamlessly integrated radiator system with a 3rd tank in the center of the radiator where the high-performance fan motor is installed inside the core, not hanging off the shroud. The coolant can flow all the way through the radiator, eliminating dead space. And it looks especially great under the hood. Sleek angles, eye-catching perforations, and a smooth aluminum shroud complete the streamlined 4-corner design that defines style and a well-put-together engine bay.
All right. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on Going Bracket Racing. Guys, we can't do it without you. The fans out there, we thank you for every week you guys come in, hit the like button, hit the follow button, bring your friends, bring your dads, everybody into the show so we can talk about what we love to do, and that's Going Bracket Racing. You know what I mean? And definitely thank you to all the sponsors out there. ProForm, thank you guys for coming on board. TSR Racing Products, we love you. Thanks for being with us. And Mr. BRG himself, Brian Garrett, thanks for those beautiful parts that you make for us and our racing operations. So, as we get back into this mock draft, Casey, I think we're at number 6.
We are.
And that is where you will see me introduce you to the man they call T-Dub himself. That is Troy Williams Jr. Number 6 on my list. T-Dub, the name speaks for itself, not to mention this year, but any other year that I can remember from my childhood as well. T-Rock's been at the top for a while. So you can't make a list like this without the Williams brothers as a whole being somewhere in at least near the top 5. Okay, so T-Rock's my number 6. Who you got?
Well, we were actually really close on Troy because Troy was my number 7, actually. And so that being said, my number 6 is actually Will Holloman. Will Holloman is a guy also you don't know what he's going to show up in. He's another one of those ambidextrous guys. As Dan Fletcher likes to say, amphibious. He's one of those amphibious guys. But man, Will Holloman is another one of those guys that he could show up in a dragster. He could show up in Chris Bear's truck or anything else you can imagine and throw down. I mean, Will's won a ton in dragsters. He won a ton this year in that 590 door truck that Chris Bear has, the black and silver one that you saw in the final round all the time.
Yep.
The question for Will Holloman is not necessarily is he going to be on the list. It's going to be what's he going to drive.
Right.
What type of vehicle is he going to drive?
Right. You'll see a little gamesmanship there too, as I'm pretty sure if you're paying attention, the top 12 must pick a opposite type of car.
Top 24.
Wait, the top 24 pick an opposite type? So
yes,
24 of them get to pick a partner?
Yeah, because the way it's going to work is it's set up in such a way where the 12 drivers are going to be picked by the Spring Fling staff, the first 12, and then the racers are going to vote on an additional 12.
Yep.
And then of those 24 drivers, they all get to pick their personal teammate that has to be the opposite type of car that they drive, which is cool for someone like Will Holloman, someone like Johnny LeBouse, someone who can drive just as well in a door car or a dragster. They can then actually make a much better pick because they can talk amongst their team and be like, well, I'll drive either one. Which one do you feel more comfortable in? I mean, if you look at it this way, George, let's say that I'm Will Holloman and I've been picked, and let's say that I want my teammate to be Donovan Williams. Donovan Williams is probably one of the best dragster racers in the entire country right now. I've never seen him really drive a door car. I'm sure he has. And I'm sure he would do pretty well, but I think that everybody would tell you if you're giving me Donovan Williams, then I want him running a dragster, which means Holloman then could run the truck or, whatever he has at the time. But if you have someone like, for example, let's see, if it was the other way around, Donovan would feel most comfortable in that green and purple and all kinds of colors overkill dragster.
Yep.
So he then has to pick someone that is an equal door car driver. Well, there's just not as many of those guys out there. There's not a lot of elite door car drivers. And Jeff Erdy's going to get snapped up.
Yeah, it's going to be some people going quick. And I think that goes to say the same for Kevin Brandon. You can put him in his fast dragster or you can put him in that Monza, and chances are you're going to be in trouble. So that I think there's going to be some gamesmanship there. I'd really like to see that unfold, and actually I'm going to get to see it, so I can't wait to see that unfold. But as we move to number 7, you can't leave the guy at home on the bench for sure. Definitely can't if he's in the top 12, but you got to give me Jeff Serra at number 7. Year-wise, he's had definitely a good year, and the guy is just one of the most fundamentally sound as it pertains to holding numbers that I think I've seen. So Jeff Serra's in there for his ability to just drive the crap out of a race car from start to finish.
No, absolutely, man. And he's another one of those guys that can drive door cars also. I mean, he won the original guaranteed million in that door car.
Yep.
Yeah, man. And this is the part where we start having a little bit of overlap, it seems, because your number 6 is my number 7, Troy Williams Jr. And then my number 8, the next one we were going to, is your number 7, which is Jeff Serra.
Got you.
So yeah, that being said, man, I mean, Jeff Serra, let me tell you a little bit about Troy Williams here real quick, man, because Troy Williams is my number 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I know you've already talked about him a little bit. Everybody knows about Troy Williams. There's really nothing that hasn't been said about Troy Williams over the years. But at the end of the day, if you have Troy Williams' tech card in the stack of cards, and he's one of the racers on the list, he's subject to win that race no matter where he's at and when it is. I think everybody gives Gary the edge for the best driver in the family, but I also think that Troy is probably a little bit more consistent than Gary, and kind of how I was talking earlier in the show. People think, the big check's all that matters. Not in the days of mega money bracket racing, man. What matters is getting in the split. That's what's really going to move the needle. If you can consistently get in the split, that's going to pay off more than winning a couple of those races a year. Now, some of them get so big that that's not necessarily true anymore. But in the grand scheme of things, if you're just going to 10, 20s, and 50s, getting in the split matters more than winning the whole race, because you're only going to win a race maybe 1 or 2 times a year. Not necessarily for the people on this list, but the average guy. That's a good year. You win 1 or 2 races, but getting in the split consistently, you'll come out on top.
Yeah, and it's definitely the case right now where currently we're starting to see the split look a little bit different with all this emergence of round money. So I see what you mean, and kind of raise you too with the thought process of round money. Seemingly every race I've seen for next year so far has some facet of round money in it. So, needless to say, if you get to the split, you're definitely going to be in more money than just what round money can pay you in the first place. So, definitely a good pick here, man. I like that. I like the thought of round money coming in. Heck, I think right now they might be racing for 500 around. I'm not 100% sure. That might not start until next year. Who knows? But we've been preaching round money for years now. So, well, you and I have talked about round money for years, but since we started going bracket racing, we've really been fans of round money. I'm going to move to number 8, just for the sake of time, as I knew we would get close on this one, Casey, man. This is a pretty tough thing to do on the fly, number 2. So, again, I utter my sentiments. Spring Fling crew, y'all got y'all hands full with picking the top 12. This is going to be fun, I'm telling you. I'm going with Johnny Bracket Racer at number 8. Again, one of those drivers just know how to make stuff look ignorant and flat out make you do something that you don't normally do. It's hard not to have put him up higher on this list, but that's the problem with this list as a whole. There's just a really good amount of racers in a list of 12 to throw out there. So I'm going with JBR. I could elaborate on why, but I'll take your number 8 because I'm pretty sure you'll have JBR somewhere in the vicinity.
I do have him here pretty soon. I'm gonna say my number 8 because we already know who it is. Someone you already said, Jeff Serra. After 2020, the year that Hunter Patton had, we kind of figured that would never be matched because, to be quite honest, nobody thought that the promoters would be able to put that on ever again. But they did, and they actually did more the following year. And then Jeff Serra comes out and makes Hunter Patton's year look like a normal year. And runners up to himself at $100,000 and wins the guaranteed $1 million in a door car that shouldn't even have been going down the track realistically because the motor had blown up and the converter was so wrong you didn't know what he was dialing within a tenth. But Jeff Serra can pull that off because that's how he drives anyway. So, I mean, he just kind of is looking at the guy behind him or in front of him, whatever it's doing. And then I guess I'll just quickly go straight into my number 9 because it's another guy we've already talked about. I got Nick Hastings in at number 9. And like I said, probably the winningest racer overall in the last 5 years as far as number of rounds entered versus number of rounds won. You can't really say anything bad about him. And Nick is another one of those guys, it would be interesting if they had foot breakers involved in this because he could be on both sides of the category. You don't even know what he's doing. He might foot brake this whole deal.
Yeah, the hard part is here, you never know. They could have foot breakers involved because I know a few foot breakers that can go 00 on the tree. Now, a lot of people like to pick the top bulb as a little bit more consistent at doing said 00 light, but Nick Hastings can do top or bottom, and I think he can compete with everybody on this list without having a problem at doing it. So, I am, however, shocked that my number 1 is your number 9. That struck me. That caught me off guard, Casey. I ain't even gonna lie. That caught me off guard there. As I get to my number 9, and probably something that people kind of go to sleep on and kind of forget that he's there, in my opinion, sometimes. That's Jeg Coughlin Jr. I'm taking Jeggy at number 9 in that wagon. I want him in that wagon. That's all I gotta tell you. When he hit the horn on the nos, I want him in the wagon. And now listen, you still got to remember. I know he maybe not as strong as a year as getting down pretty deep into the SFG 525, I think it was. But you're talking about somebody who is a machine, literally. Like literally, this dude's a machine. So you can't have a top 12 without Jeg Coughlin Jr. in the mix. That's my number 9.
No, that is somebody that isn't on my list that I completely forgot about, actually. Because, when you think of Jay Coughlin, you think pro stock, you think of NHRA racing. But what you should think, I guess, when you think of Jay Coughlin is racing in general. Any sort of drag racing, Jay Coughlin has the potential to win it. I mean, that's what he has done for a living. I mean, it's not his only job. Obviously, he ran Jakes for all those years and with his brothers and his dad and things like that. But primarily, one of his main jobs in life was driving a race car. And there's a reason why he is a champion in several classes.
Yep.
My number 10, you did 9, right?
Yeah, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. My number 10 is Champ McCory. And the reason being is because he doesn't, again, it kind of goes into that whole deal of look how many races he won this year versus how many races he entered this year. I mean, it's seemingly anytime he shows up, he's going to win one day. And it just is a matter of which day he's going to win. He was in the final with Tebow for
at the
the
guaranteed.
the second one. He won, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of big checks this year. It's and I'll never forget about during that guaranteed million, he gets down to 5 cars, pulls up on, I think he ran, I can't remember if he ran a buy run or if he ran someone before, but he's like 3 total running all out, clearly, mostly running all out. Dials up 4 or 5 numbers, runs Will Holloman, and now he's like 7 total or 5 total or something like that. I mean, against one of the best racers in the country, someone who I've already mentioned on this list. I mean, that just shows you're sticking to your guns, and I think that's what it's going to take to win this type of a race.
Right. Definitely, as we move to number 10, the Peep Show comes out. He's one of those racers where when he shows up to certain races, I don't even care if it's your weekly points race. You have to run him very, very strong, or you're not going to win. It's that easy. Come up with a good package. Do the best you can to execute that plan that you put together, and hope that he didn't execute better than you. And again, it's another name that could be further on up the list, but I got Peeps Pennington at number 10.
My number 11 is going to be something that we always forget about. Everybody always forgets about him, but my number 11 is Nick Folk, and I really hope that he makes it in this deal because, I mean, dude, this guy's a machine, man. He's always winning. He just kind of hangs around the Midwest a lot. He does travel some, but dude's got to work. He started his own dragster company now. They've always had Folk race cars. But this is someone who always seems to sneak under the radar, man. And, when people go to talking about the greatest bracket racer ever, this guy, he's another one of those guys that's ambidextrous. He can do it in the door car. He can do it in the dragster. He does it in cars that he builds himself. He can do it in class racing. But he probably wins quietly $50,000 to $100,000 every single season. Most recently, he won a no split 50 grander, not because he didn't want to split. It's because the other guy didn't want to split.
Yeah.
And what did I tell you when we were watching that, George? I said, does this guy know who he's no splitting against? And guess who came out on top? Nick Folk.
Well,
I mean, that doesn't get him nervous. He doesn't care about that.
Yeah. Well, it is the first time on this list where we are in the exact same mind frame because Nick Folk is as well my number 11 out of this list. On the spot, Nick Folk, the way you spoke about him is good enough. This was where it got hard, okay? When I got into the back of this list, everything got hard because there are some names that I haven't mentioned on this list, and I'm going to tell you, I just kept going. I got to like 28. So I just kept going because I knew it was going to be a hard list to come up with in the first place, but excellent choice. And another driver that can be higher up on this list as well. So I think they're definitely going to have to do some type of random pick where you put everybody's name inside of a hat or go to random.com and draw numbers and figure out who's picking first. So who you got number 12?
My number 12 is one that's already been on your list, man. Kevin Brandon.
Oh, I mean, you got Kevin Brandon back here. Yep.
He just quietly motors through everybody. There's a reason why whenever we did Champ wanted to do that Calcutta, we did a Calcutta earlier this year, and who was my pick? Kevin Brandon, man, because you got to pick whenever you're picking somebody who needs to win the entire race and you're starting, at round one, you got to pick a guy like Kevin Brandon, who's probably one of the most consistent winners that there is out there. I mean, to be able to race for a living, you have to consistently be in the split. Kevin Brandon is consistently in the split. And by the way, just so everyone's aware, I picked Kevin Brandon a couple days prior before this Calcutta started because it was for the big race. It was for the big race at the Spring Fling. Kevin Brandon won the day before. He won the wrong day. He was still doubled in fifth round. He was the last one doubled in the Monza. So I thought I was going to take home some money, and I think Britt Cummings actually ended up winning it.
Well, at point guard or shooting guard, standing 6'49", driving a very nice looking Mollis car. Give me AJ Ash to come in at number 12. Not necessarily my sleeper pick by any means. Again, I feel like you can flip this list as many times as you want to, and it's going to come out good either way you do it. But he has to fit in my top 12 right now. He's been driving like a wild man and then in a dragster. And then I did use, while I made this list, the ambidextrous thought. Can he drive the door car or does he have to drive the dragster? And it doesn't matter which one you put him in. He's going to be solid. That's why I know there's going to be some gamesmanship going on in this thing. And this is going to be fun to watch because of that main reason. So I round my whole list out with AJ Ash.
And it's kind of funny that how the lists ended up, considering we legitimately didn't talk to each other about anybody who's on our list. We didn't even say who was on them, let alone the order they're in. AJ Ash for me is number 13.
That's crazy.
It was hard, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the exact same reason why you said it, because he's a guy that ever since he quit being a race director, promoter, whatever you want to call it, and started racing again, he's been on fire ever since, man. And he can do it in a door car, which I don't even understand how he shoehorns himself in that Oldsmobile, I believe it is. But he got him a dragster now, probably a dragster nobody could ever dream of reaching the pedals in. But he's running that dragster now. He's on fire in that dragster. I mean, I don't know if it's even called being on fire for AJ Ash. I think he's just one of the best racers.
Yep.
He didn't race for so long, or at least he raced so little for so long. He's another one of those guys, I know I've said it 1,000 times, but ultimately he's one of those guys that if he shows up, there's a very high potential that he's going to have the most rounds won that particular weekend. I want to say at MEO, or what I keep calling it wrong, Immokalee. I keep calling it like Annie Oakley or something like that. But at Immokalee, he was deep in that show yesterday and all weekend for that matter.
It's a fact. It's a fact. And he's gonna be in deep. He's gonna be deep this weekend too, And I got a question. I got a comment over here on, and I'm gonna try to get some of these comments in here, guys. This was kind of hard. We're already at 4:54, and I got a hard stop by 5:15, so it was hard for me to get all this thing in and try to get all my chat read out as well. But Troy Abercrombie comes in saying, "Had a phone call. Have either of you picked Bogacki yet?" And then he says a 48 car all-star race without Luke Bogacki would be illegitimate. I absolutely agree with you. I don't have Luke in my top 12 based on the fact that I think Luke's been chasing quite a bit of NHRA himself. I know he's got a family that's growing and got some other things he's got to do. So the majority of my list is based on what happened this year. And I did pepper in a few that may not have had the greatest this year, but you can't leave them out. So if I were to name off where Dadis showed up, for example, he's my number 13. That was my battle right there. It was between Dadis and Ash. And the reason I went with Ash is because he could still pick a dragster or a door car, whereas I only know Dadis as a door car racer. That was my kind of qualifying moment there. So Jacqueline Steele in here. Number one for me was Hastings. Casey, was your number? I forgot your number one, Casey.
Kyle Cotrera was my number one.
Cotrera coming down number one for Casey. So,
and
guys,
believe it or not, out of all these people, I've been highlighting them as we go. If you go through, say your 14th real quick, because my 14th is Johnny Ezel. I know we're running out of time. We can't go through our full 20. But I know you didn't hear a lot of JBR this year, but he's a guy that, again, anytime he's there, he's going to go rounds. He's a guy, I respect him a lot. I don't know him personally, but guy who builds his own cars, guy who puts them all together himself and drives as well as he does. You have to respect a guy like that, especially this day and age where everybody's just buying stuff, on the internet and bolting it together.
Yep, it was easy for me to put him at 8. I do get to watch him a little bit more than you do as well, being right here in Texas. So he comes over to a couple of races here in Texas. Number 14, I got Catfish. Give me Jason Lynch. One again. Part of what went into my list is sheer fear factor itself. I had a few thoughts when I made this list, and that's how I came up with the next one being Sugar Shane Carr. And after Shane Carr, I've got Dave Conley. I got Doughboy at 18. That's Williams' boy.
I have him at 17, actually. My 15th pick, Chris Barrett.
Nice.
Another guy who can,
whatever
primarily does it in his dragster, but he's got both. As long as Will isn't in the one, it seems like he could run that. Here's one that a lot of people have forgotten about, just because he didn't race for various reasons this year. He didn't race, but Hunter Patton, man. Hunter Patton, the original, probably, Kenny Underwood was the original. Nobody's ever going to touch that season. Then you had Hunter Patton come out. Hunter Patton blows through everything for about a year and a half, actually, because it started at the Fall Fling. Started maybe a little bit before that, but it really kicked off at the Fall Fling, and it never stopped through the COVID year. Yeah. And he destroyed everybody. Doughboy, Donovan Williams, for me, number 17.
That's
number
tough.
18.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you got to, in my opinion, you have to have Donovan Williams in it just because of what he's already done.
This year,
just this year. I mean, the guy's so young. He is the can Corey Galletti already have a reincarnation of himself? He isn't old enough,
Yeah, no.
I guess Donovan's a reincarnation
of his old
age
man, anyway.
I guess. Yeah. Donovan is exactly like his old man and his uncle. I mean, he's definitely paid attention. He clearly has. Number 18 for me, Kenny Underwood. Again, the guy who said, or he didn't personally say it.
23 on my list.
Nobody thought that Underwood's season would happen again, but nobody also thought that this amount of money would ever be put up. Number 19 for me is someone you said already, Peeps Pennington.
Yep.
He's another one of those guys. If you see him past third round, he's probably going to win the whole thing. It's almost like Peeps is going to lose early or he's just going to destroy.
My 19 is Slate Cummings.
Yep. Good pick.
Yep. And I will say I put Bogak at 25. Right in front of Abruzzi. And that's only because both of those racers pretty well have focused. I do see Troy Abercrombie chiming in saying Luke did runner up a 50 out in Tucson. I don't know how I missed that. I'm going to be honest. But I did miss that. Anyway, putting them these lists, I hope nobody gets their feelings hurt by opinion. And these lists are definitely that. It's going to be very interesting to see how Spring Fling does it, because a name that neither one of us mentioned is Scotty Richardson. Well, obviously, guys, Scotty Richardson has kind of been, quote unquote, a little bit retired this year. I mean, heck, did Scotty Richardson even stage up for the OG Million?
No.
I don't think he would. See? Yep. So that's a reason why I didn't go into some other guys that I know belong up here, guys. Don't get me wrong here. And I'm curious to see what Spring Fling does, because these names that I'm mentioning out this backlist, Tyler Bohannon, he's on my list at number 21. Doug Foley Jr. Spencer Massey's on my list down here. So it's just a lot, dude. It's a lot to go into. I didn't expect it when you told me to make a list that this was what it was going to be for. And I didn't learn that this is what it was for until earlier today. So, guys, if you don't believe that we kind of shoot from the hip, here's living proof well, not living, but virtual proof of not having a plan and coming to a stream and saying this is going to be fun anyway. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, man, and the thing is it's like we said earlier. People are going to take this the wrong way and be like, "Oh, how can you have that guy in the greatest of all time?" Well, that's not what we're talking about right now, man. We're talking about the greatest right now.
Right.
We're not talking about greatest of all time. If it was greatest of all time, there'd be a lot of different names in here because there's a lot of people in here that haven't done it long enough, in my opinion, to even be on this list.
That's right.
Yeah, for greatest of all time. I mean, you can't say, Corey Galletti, Hunter Patton, Donovan Williams, Peeps even. I mean, there's a lot of people on here there's a lot of young guys on here that will go down as some of the best bracket racers of all time, but they haven't been doing it long enough yet. To be the greatest of all time. But like I said, this list is not that list. This list is who is the greatest right now if you had to pick people today, which is what Biondo said in his stream, which was if you were to have to pick somebody today to win $100,000, who are you going to pick? These are the list of people that we personally would pick right now. If you have any opinions on it otherwise, I know there's people obviously going on here in the chat right now laughing at each other about what they're talking about. We're going to put something out on Facebook and, edit the list. Feel free to edit the list. It'll be good to have your opinion out there. I was just texting Peter Biondo earlier. He's going to be watching this show. If you got some people, maybe you got some people that, didn't jump to the front of the page. And maybe it's somebody you can get in this race. Because like I said, ultimately, it's about the thing that Peter did that was extremely smart in this scenario, or the Fling staff in general, was they're going to pick 12. Everybody's not going to agree with their picks. So they're allowing another 12, not that 12 to be edited, a whole another 12 is going to be voted on by the fans. And then those drivers are going to pick people that the fans didn't even think of. So as far as calling this an all-star race, I love the fact that he called this the all-star race because that's what it is. It's not a greatest of all time race. It's not settling that argument. It never will because nobody's ever going to be able to settle that argument because people aren't in their prime anymore. People don't have the ability to do what they used to do and just pick up and leave. But what they do have the ability to do is run one all-star race, publicize it, and see what everybody thinks. And they're allowing you to actually have the opportunity to vote on of who's in it.
Absolutely foolproof. Absolutely. And I don't even mind coming on this show again and doing another mock draft. Mock draft number 2 in the summertime before they actually do this bad boy to see if my list has changed. Because we have quite a bit of time in between now and when the actual race is to help alter our decisions in the first place. So yeah, man, I think we ought to keep this on the list as something that we might want to circle back to in order to get, to get some more input on this thing. I see a lot of comments in the chat. I see Baby Cole at top 500 for the win. Yeah, man, I'm pretty sure he's better than top 500. Baby Cole can wind up on this list too. Good door car driver in his own right. So a lot of things are going to go into this race, and I think with our participation and Motor Mania to stream it, hopefully George to be in attendance, at least on even if I'm just in the stands, I don't care. That's where I expect to be in the first place, right? But man, this would be one to watch in person. This would be fun. So, what do you got in closing, Casey, man, before we get up out of here?
Oh, again, man, just got to thank everybody that helps GBR and makes it possible. And thanks for everybody for renewing their contracts for next year. TSR Racing Products, Chance Performance Parts, Driven Racing Oil, BRG 3D Printed Parts, Ken Jones Performance, Syntex Printing, Team 14, and the newest partner, Proform Parts. Go check them out, guys. You aren't going to believe how much they had going on. They've been around for 30 years. I believe they were formerly known as Specialty Auto Parts or something, but a lot of the Chevrolet and Mopar licensed merchandise that you see, like when you see these Chevrolet valve covers, a lot of them are produced by Proform. And like I said, they sell brand new alternators. Like I said, I got one on my car right now. Works great. It's one of those mini alternators, super light. Starters, they aren't remanufactured. They're actually brand new. Everything's up in Detroit. So you're still supporting us.
And the drag racing community at the same time. So definitely, guys, as we always in this show, thanks for joining us. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Invite anybody you want into the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, Facebook page. And until then, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good one.